So, almost 3 weeks of free agency have passed, and this is a great time to analyze the Chargers cap situation. So, in today's video, I'm going to break down how much remaining cap space the Chargers have right now, how much spending they've done, what their future situation looks like, and based on this cap space, what the Chargers' next expected moves could be. Let's get into it. What's up, buddies? Welcome back. If you are new here, make sure you hit the subscribe button. We cover all AFC West news here on this channel. If you've been following this team over the past few seasons, especially last year, you know Joe Hortiz and the front office don't mess around. They've been active, snagged Poona Ford late in the game, brought in J.K. Dobbins to bolster the backfield. And honestly, I'd bet my last dollar they're not done yet. They're probably still kicking the tires on some free agents, both now and after the draft. The market's not overflowing with blockbuster names demanding top-tier money, but there are still some solid players out there. That's why I wanted to pull this cap overview together, to give us a clear picture of where the Bolts stand after the big free agency checks have cleared. So I've got over the cap up here, and right now, it's showing the Chargers with about $30.87 million in cap space. Now, that number's not set in stone. It's a little fuzzy. Scroll down the roster list and you'll notice Tony Jefferson's name isn't even there yet, even though he just re-signed. Everyone else's cap hit is accounted for, but Jefferson's missing from the equation. Based on his veteran deal last year, which clocked in at $1.2 million, I'd peg him around 1.1 or 1.2 million again this time. Nothing crazy. The catch is, his exact hit depends on whether he lands in the top 51 roster spots, which is what counts against the offseason cap. Right now, he'd factor in. Last season, Jefferson bounced between the practice squad and active roster, so his numbers shifted week to week, depending on where he landed. That flexibility makes it tough to nail down his cap hit precisely. It could fluctuate if he sticks on the active roster all year or bounces back to the practice squad again. At this stage in his career, he's proven he's fine rolling with that kind of setup, and the Chargers seem to like that versatility. For now, let's ballpark him at 1.2 million. Take that 30.87 million, subtract 1.2, and you're sitting at roughly 29.67 million in cap space. That's just under 30 million, give or take, depending on how Jefferson's deal shakes out officially. But that's not the whole story. The Chargers have to account for their draft class. They've got 10 picks this year, and their in-season budget. Analysts break those numbers down differently depending on who you ask. Daniel Popper over at his Substack, for instance, usually estimates the in-season budget around $8 million. For the draft with those 10 picks, he's projecting about $3.2 million. Now, that draft figure's not locked in. It could shift. Say the Chargers trade up in the second round and ditch their fourth rounder. Now they're down to 9 picks, and that budget drops a bit since they're signing one fewer rookie. Or maybe they trade back, pick up an extra 5th or 6th, bump it to 11 picks, and that number creeps up slightly. We won't know until the draft plays out, but for now, let's run with Popper's estimates. $3.2 million for the draft, $8 million for in-season moves. That's $11 million total. Take our adjusted cap space of $29.67 million after Jefferson, subtract that $11 million, and you're left with just under $20 million. Call it $18 or $19 million in pure spending room for free agents. Hold on, though. It gets a little more complicated. We can't forget about Rashawn Slater. Over on Over the Cap, he's listed as a free agent in 2026, and an extension's definitely on the horizon. We've been talking about Slater all offseason. When's that deal coming? Right now, there's no sign it's imminent, and I don't think it needs to be. Look at the Chargers' history. Justin Herbert's extension landed in July 2023. Joey Bosa and Keenan Allen got theirs in July or August 2020, right around training camp. That's their sweet spot for big contracts. So when Slater's extension does hit, it'll shake up the 2025 cap picture. I get this question all the time. Oh, that 20 or 30 million they've got, that's just for Slater, right? Not quite. Not this year, at least. His extension would kick in for 2026. For 2025, his current cap hits locked at $19.04 million. If they extend him, that number drops significantly. Take Penei Sewell, his draft classmate. His 5th-year hit was around $19.5 million, then fell to $9.54 million after his extension. Slater's deal could save the Chargers $10 or $11 million in 2025, whenever it gets signed. So if they're sitting at $18 or $19 million in spending space now, add that $10 or $11 million from Slater's extension in July or August, and suddenly they've got a lot more wiggle room. I'm not saying they'll go on a free agent spending spree, but it could open the door for trades, like that Elijah Molden pickup before the season, or some moves at the deadline. My gut says they're not earmarking that Slater savings for free agents, though. They know it's coming down the pike, so they're not sweating the 18 or 19 million they've got in their pocket right now. Plus, the free agent market isn't exactly screaming for a $20 or $30 million splash. More like a few smaller strategic signings, but no game changers are jumping off the page. Let's dig a little deeper into that cap calculator. They could restructure Justin Herbert or Derwin James to free up more space, but there's no rush. Herbert's just kicking off his big extension, so they've got years to shuffle that money around if needed. Derwin's contract will come up eventually, but that's a conversation for another day. For now, the Chargers are sitting pretty with just under 20 million in pure spending space or 29 to 30 million in total cap space once Jefferson's deal gets posted. It's not a transformative number, but it gives them some flexibility. So, I hopped over to PFF to check out who's still on the free agent market. Let's run through some names, though it's not fully updated since Stephon Diggs just landed with New England and Jameis Winston's off the board too. Not that the Chargers were in on Jameis, but there are still some intriguing options out there. First up, Amari Cooper. It's been awfully quiet around him. Nobody's buzzing about his market. He's an older receiver, and with Mike Williams already holding down the outside, I think the Chargers would lean toward a younger guy in the draft. If Cooper's price tag dropped to bargain bin levels, maybe they'd consider it, but I wouldn't bet on it. There's even some retirement chatter floating around online. If he signs anywhere, I'd guess it's post-draft. The Chargers jumping in now, or even later, feels like a long shot, unless the draft totally flops on receivers. Next, Asante Samuel Jr. He's still out there, but he's not coming back to LA. I think he visited the Cardinals, but it's been radio silent since. That's a bummer for the Chargers' compensatory pick hopes. His contract size could throw a wrench in that formula. PFF had him at 3 years, $14.5 million a year before free agency, which always felt steep for a guy with shoulder concerns and an odd fit. Too small for outside corner, not quite a slot special. We'll see where he ends up. Then there's Keenan Allen, the name everyone loves to bring up. Mike Williams was up at the podium talking about recruiting him back, saying he'd love to see it happen. Keenan's market is one to watch closely. PFF pegged him at $12.5 million a year, but I'm not convinced he's pulling that now. Stephon Diggs just got $23 million from the Patriots, but they were in a bind. Keenan's coming off a quieter year in Chicago. Still a reliable player, no question. The issue is fit. If you've got Ladd McConkey thriving in the slot where he's at his best, Keenan's not sliding in there as much. He played 50% of his snaps outside in Chicago and can handle it, but at nearly 33, his bread and butter's the slot. Think Cooper Kupp running 65% of his routes there last year. If the Chargers had drafted a big outside receiver like Malik Neighbors or Brian Thomas last year, Keenan might make more sense. Right now, he'd eat into Ladd's slot snaps, and I don't think they're keen on that. If Keenan took a team-friendly deal, say $5 million guaranteed, up to $9 million with incentives, maybe they'd bend a little. But if he's chasing a max payday for 1 or 2 years, I don't see him back in LA. Money's been a sticking point for him lately. Just look at his trade to Chicago over taking a pay cut. If his market softens and he's open to a discount, it's not impossible. He's a California guy, loves LA, tight with Mike Williams. Still, the dollars in the scheme make it a tough sell. Now, let's talk Calais Campbell. Here's a guy I'm genuinely excited about. Fans keep asking where the Chargers' pass rush is coming from, with Deshaun Hand, Otito Ogbonia, and Tuli Tuipulotu in the mix. They lost Poona Ford and Morgan Fox, who combined for 57 pressures last year. Campbell alone had 39 pressures last season, more than Poona or Tuli, and he's turning 39 soon. If he's still giving you 40 pressures at 40 years old, that's a steal. A 1-year, $3 million deal? Sign me up. He'd bring some serious heat to that defensive tackle room. Sure, he might want to chase a ring elsewhere, and at his age, maybe he skips a full training camp. But if he's still playing, he's a perfect fit. That's the kind of move I'd love to see. It shores up a lot of questions up front before the draft even rolls around. So there you have it, folks. The Chargers are sitting with just under $20 million in spending space, $29 to $30 million in total cap room. They're not done making moves. Could grab a veteran like Calais Campbell or a budget receiver to round things out. What do you think they should do with that money? Drop your takes in the comments. I want to hear from you.